removes the double gank threat from Roccat kinda, because it's not worth ganking for Lulu all that much. So we'll have to see what the remaining picks end up being.
Well, there's the Lulu off the table already. Origen targeting Nukeduck at their bans. Azir and Yasuo gone. Peke's Azir left a little bit to be desired when we saw it in the finals. And interestingly, Peke has run Vladimir into Azir in the past, but it was a long time ago, only week 5. Roccat will reply with a Kalista. So on track, the Yasuo is only a little surprising.
See, I like getting rid of the unconventional mid picks from Nukeduck and just making sure Xpeke gets to that laning phase. In the interview, obviously Mr. Alice came out and said, well, we have the best mid laner in Europe and Xpeke is the weakest link on their team. I don't know if I agree with that, but I do think the matchup respectively between the mid laners is the closest one in this series.
Yeah, and of course that Yasuo pick from Nukeduck was what allowed Roccat to beat Origen the last time they met. Origen are 0-2 against Roccat. Victor's taken off the table, so Shen is still up, and GP as well. Those are the two big discussions that we had, as well as Sivir.
And people will expect the Gangplank first lock in here for Origen, unless they want to use this first game to just sniff out whether Roccat actually can play it into Soas well enough, or Soas as a counter. You know, teams maybe just getting information in this first game of the series and then adapting picks and bans later on. We saw Origen adapt pretty well against Fnatic in that series as well. That's why it went to a Game 5. So obviously you have no clue what these teams and these captains in terms of their coaches are thinking.
Yeah, and we heard Ducky on stage saying we couldn't show everything because it was against Fnatic. They had to try being our A game, and it will be a first lock-in Gangplank. Relatively safe for those barrels. Now we see whether Steve has a counter.
Obviously, we didn't mention Elise. The prime jungler pick for early aggression is open and can neutralize the jungler and then get access to the lane. So that might be a pick for Yankas here. Overall, I wonder if Roccat is actually going to pick up the Ahri early to get some pressure in the mid lane, even though Yamato came out with some pretty strong words about that champion pick on the analyst test, so perhaps they just wait for Nukeduck to counterpick later on in the series.
And on this patch, Ahri's been played 7 times, only by Ryu and Xpeke. Those are the only players that have played that champion, so we'll find out whether or not they have a priority with so many bans on the mid lane, but we've seen Peke running Twisted Fate as well. There's a few other options. Oriana's up there.
Yeah.
Not really their mains, but...
In scenarios like this, when Azir and Victor are off the table, you obviously see other mid laners rise to the occasion, and then you can easily see an Ahri versus Oriana matchup in the mid lane come out at either side. And it looks like Roccat is not going to go for the Elise. They're just going to say, Origen, do you really want that? We may have an answer ready, and they're going to go for the early Sivir, and they definitely want to lock in that Ahri. So it seems that Nukeduck wants to have this matchup ready into whatever Peke has left in his champion pool.
Yeah, and it's definitely hitting Peke again with all of these champions off the table.
Yeah,
find out what he's going to prioritize. A few options, but of course not taking the Elise means Amazing will next to insta-lock that and the Braum, which is just continuing to show strength and power on this patch.
I mean, I don't have to repeat myself too much. I'm a big Braum fanboy overall. I think it is added value to taking it here because you take it away from Roccat and it doesn't allow them to block the exploding barrels from the Gangplank later on in the game. So less peel again. We might see an Alistar come out here on the side of Vander or his, his comfort pick, which is the Thresh. Overall though, I think Origen is leading in the draft so far.
So a decent start then for Origen. For Roccat, they've got a mixture of sort of everything. Some wave clear, some engage, some pick. With Gragas, they've got some more disengage thrown into the mix. And Alistar could add to the front line, but what are they running into Gangplank? That is the big question that I still want to know. Fizz is gone. We've seen Steve play Rumble. Maokai's up. But what do you want to run against a scurvy pirate like that?
Quite peculiar that Rocket's keeping their 5th pick counter pick for the top lane. No flex pick in the remaining role, so it's a solo counter pick on that Gangplank, even though it was revealed in the very first rotation of this pick and ban phase. You always have to look at jungle and top lane combined, of course. Gangplank and Elise is one of the very, very strong early game jungler duos, so we need to see what Steve whips out, or if Roccat are going to go for the lane swap. They might want to see what Origen ends up picking in the AD carry position and see if they can prompt the lane swap to get through the early game phase that way and then just start rotating and making picks with the Sivir on the hunt.
We'll find out in a few seconds as Origen are going to lock in what is expected to be their mid laner with Peke sitting on Flash Teleport. You have to expect the likes of Diana, maybe Twisted Fate. Something that we have seen a couple of times in recent weeks. They've only got a few seconds left. With the single target focus champions we've seen from Elise, from Vayne, maybe a TF would be smarter, but if they want scaling, they're kind of going all in as far as their solo lanes are concerned.
The fact that Peke had to pick up Vladimir here does seem like Roccat did a good job in hitting him in terms of champion pool. I do think eliminating the Fizz and the Azir and the Victor out of the draft and then just early picking the Ahri seems I'd expect us to go for Vladimir. Vladimir by no means is a bad pick, but it requires scaling. It allows Roccat to push in the mid lane early, get more pressure, and then start challenging Mythy and Amazing when they go for that vision a little more and hopefully snowball the game that way. Obviously, the guy that has to survive will be Steve in the top lane against that Gangplank.
So, Peke, 4-1 on that Vladimir. The only team that gave him a loss was, in fact, Roccat. And it was actually a game where I believe Nuktak was running Azir. That is ifs and buts. It will be the Hecarim now locked in to challenge Origen. So, a lot of mobility, a lot of team fight, and those TP ganks could be very impactful. But Steve's first game on Hecarim, he fed a lot because he was focused heavily, lacking that utility summoner.
Yeah, he didn't have the flash that game, and obviously was a rough entry into the LCS. So if we compare both these compositions, what strikes me the most is the lack of innate wave clear on Origen side. They really need to change some barrels to get that wave clear off, or Peke needs to run into the wave. If you compare that to Roccat, they can have Ahri max range wave clear, barrels can help a little bit, and Sivir can always rotate into the mid lane to start clearing those waves. So quicker plays can come out of Roccat, and Origen, they will have to play slower and set up their plays a little better, use the side waves to their control and just start pressuring the map that way. They've shown in the finals that they can do that, but they have a risky composition if they should fall behind, because Roccat can spike very hard in the mid game.
We'll find out whether or not Roccat will get the opportunity to spike in the mid game. They came out the gates a little slow yesterday against Giants. They won't have that opportunity against Origen. The lineups are locked in. Let's dive into the second round of the 2015 European Regional Qualifiers.
The gauntlet is going to be pretty tough for us.
It is about being good, and then you need to be proactive. It's the key to victory.
The best team is gonna make it out of the gauntlet.
It will mean a lot to go to the World Championship. It's every player's dream.
They obviously want to go to Worlds. They will not make it easy for us.
Want to go to Worlds. That is what is on the line in the regional qualifier. Roccat have already defeated one opponent on the way to the finals. They'll have to take down the only team to give Fnatic a loss this summer. It is Origen in game one of our best of five. You guys know the hashtags. You guys know the Twitter. Let us know who you think will be victorious this series. And
If you
we
don't know the hashtags, hashtag OG win, hashtag ROC win, if you're Twitter noob.
permanent support professionalism, Crapo.
Alright. But I'm worried about Origen if they fall behind. I think the composition is nice, but it's a little greedy in terms of wave clear. However, I love seeing Niels play that Vayne. In the first game of the split, I believe he started playing Vayne. It was against H2K, where he got ahead with Miffy and he tumbled out of the Sivir boomerangs as well, and he got a lead that way. So really good performance of him on the multiple times I've seen him play Vayne. Obviously, he's not afraid to play at the front of the fight. We saw that against Fnatic too, when he was backed up by the Lulu, etc. He was right in front, dodging skill shots. If he gets hit, he's dead, but he never got hit. He's so good at sidestepping things. And Miffy Niels as a whole, as a duo, are very strong in lane.
And we do see Niels and Miffy already in lane. They've walked across 2 Roccat wards at this point in time. Roccat seem to have initiated the lane swap. So clever warding from Roccat. And we'll see which jungler is going to get enabled from this lane swap. We talked about how Origen could match Fnatic's lane swap. Can Roccat get one step ahead of Origen's game plan? I mean, they've got a team comp that could punish early, but Roccat as a team, not traditionally been able to do that.
Well, in the lane swap, obviously the map opens up a little more, and this gives much more the advantage to these teams that have the quick wave clear. If these side lanes start stacking up, towers go down, lanes get longer, it is much quicker for Roccat to quickly go clear wave. Spam some abilities and it's gone. Whereas opposed, imagine if Niels has to go clear 12 creeps. That is going to take a while. Compare that with Rawless, who can just move over, cast Q, W3 auto attacks, and the wave is gone. So in the mid game, this will obviously give more momentum to Roccat.
And we'll see if they can use that momentum. Roccat were able to punish Giants yesterday. And Roccat look better than they have all split long. And now their opponent is theoretically much stronger. We see Yonkos and Steve. They're holding hands in the jungle. And we can see on the opposite side an invasion from Soaz and Amazing.
Yeah, very safe invaded too. They obviously have some deep wards there, so they know pretty much exactly that the map is divided to the left side and the right side right now, compared to the traditional bottom and top side, because that's what happens in the lane swap. We'll have to see how quick these towers go down. We have three Origen members in the bot lane right now. This is what lane swaps have devolved into. It started with the 4v0, now back to the 3v0 standard. Roccat are late to this tower though, so as a reaction, they may actually have to send over Jankos to help speed up that tower clearing process, because look at the damage on the tower from Origen as well. If you get that tower down first, the momentum it gives allows you to be one step ahead. A team like Origen, if they're one step ahead in the lane swaps, they will punish you eventually.
Especially with a team composition that wants to go even into mid-game and scale to late. So for Origen, they will get this tower. We'll take a quick look at Roccat. I think should clear it relatively soon though.
And when Origen has played lane swaps like this, usually they've bounced the wave back to Niels and sent Soaz back to the top lane, because they really like having their top laner in the top lane in the second phase of the lane swap. It does look, however, that this time, because he's playing Gangplank, he's actually going to get the farm. So Niels and Miffy are going to head top. They may relinquish Dragon Control, but they have a Scuttle Crab there already, so they can move around what Roccat could do as a reaction and likely invade with Deep Red Vision should the Dragon ever come out.
And Roccat also do similar, donating the tower gold to Steve, 275 for that Hecarim. So both top lane carries getting a little bit of early assistance. And we saw Soaz's barrel mechanics in the final. He'll need to keep up that level of play, because he's the only safe wave clear that Origen has to play with.
And we're now around the 4-minute mark, the 4th minute mark. This is when you usually see the supports roam mid, because this is a passive matchup, the Expect is based. They actually opt to not do that. Soaz knows if he frees, they'll just come and push him off the freeze and deny him farm. So he actually pushed back the wave towards Roccat. He doesn't mind that. He already secured himself some juicy CS. He's 10 CS up on Steve. Whereas Steve, he let the wave freeze, then he based. So Steve actually just lost some farm there. He could have actually pushed out initially first. So it is hard to see what the right thing is, push or freeze in multiple cases. But Steve ended up basing, and now he goes towards Soaz, but he's already down 12 CS. I'm just going to double check on experience here. Steve is level 3.4. And Soaz is a full level ahead of him already.
Big difference. The experience is something that I like to talk about that is a little more difficult to see. And talking about that first step, you can see Origen already on the tower in the top lane. Because Niels and Miffy got there first, Pekka has eaten the charm already. And this is a matchup that we wanted to look at. Pekka's champion pool got pinched, and it went back to something he hasn't played in over 7 weeks. Week 5 of the regular season was the last time we saw Vladimir.
It is, however, incredibly hard to successfully gank a Vladimir, at least in one attempt. You'll need at least 2 attempts to get him. Look at the amount of defensive summoners that he has, in addition to that Sanguine pool. Yesterday, hang on, Nuktok.
Wow, Pekka eats a charm. That makes life a little easier.
Well, there's no jungle around, so that's fine. But yesterday, Roccat was camping the hell out of mid lane. That was their plan. Kill Pepe Never 3 times, make him tilt, and just get him off the map. But this time, Jankos couldn't find an opening. Roccat earlier pinged him out, so they have a good idea of where he is on the map. Now he's just going to show top, so Roccat giving away much information, and meanwhile Soaz is comfortably farming and winning that bot lane matchup. Look at Amazing, he's supplementing the top laner. Jankos isn't doing anything on this top lane, he is losing the pressure.
There is no flash for Steve. If a cocoon connects and a barrel gets chained, Steve is going to be in trouble. Soaz is moving up. Steve is trying to play that guitar to his heart's content, and Amazing realizes they don't want this. He's just going to do a drive-by.
It's a little weird.
Tell me why.
Nothing happened.
No, I was really expecting the dive.
Yeah, we were getting ready for hype first, but
I'm building up the hype, and then Amazing's just like, no. Hashtag not worth, and they backed away.
Alright, so this gives Jankos some more time to farm. Obviously, he was just shadowing that lane, making his presence known, but it allowed Roccat to push in. Now they can start moving these pieces around on the chessboard. If you group a couple of members mid, Pekka will have an incredibly hard time clearing his wave. Look at how he's zoned already in this matchup. Nuktok's level 6, Pekka's level 6, but the kill potential, the threat is all on Nuktok's side, especially when Jankos is hovering on the left side of this lane.
Means Pekka is going to back away. I think that wave was pushing towards Nuketook. We'll see if he's going to reset it. Minions are still pushing a little bit in his favor. That Orbit Deception means Pekka will lose maybe 1 or 2 CS before he gets in lane. Marginally down, but that is balanced out by the fact Steve is behind Soaz.
Yeah, so what Nuketook did there was freeze the wave and tell Pekka, if you want to stay in lane, you will have to fight to come and get your CS. Obviously, the reaction from Pekka will be base. Then the reaction from Nuketook is push out, because otherwise Pekka will come back with an item lead, full health, and he will just destroy Nuketook, and then Nuketook's behind on the base. So good play by both these players. The correct choices were made. But overall, Roccat leads slightly in gold, but I feel like Origen is leading in terms of scaling and pressure.
We'll find out if Origen can keep it up. They've been given a small reprieve that Mr. All's first item choice after a longsword is an Avarice Blade. So Niels with a Cutlass already, he's not going to be under as much pressure as what would have been a BF sword Sivir, but we'll see if Mr. Ross can farm up quickly enough to get that 2-item spike.
Yeah, so Raw is just saying, okay, we're not going to fight, we're only going to farm. I'm just going to get more money's worth out of my farming. As a Vayne, you're happy to see this, though. If the worst point in your build, the really hard threshold, is Cutlass into BF sword. That is the roughest part of any Vayne matchup, and if you can dodge that, either Cutlass into Pickaxe, or Cutlass into, hey, Avarice Blade, then you're obviously really happy. See on the bottom side of the map, Origen are picking up a dragon. And this is, some of the Giants members criticize Roccat for not being able to play aggressive. And this is kind of showing on the map right now. Origen could be punished a lot harder for their lack of wave clear, for their early game, just for the way this game plays out. But Roccat are making greedy choices, passive choices. They're afraid to make a mistake, and yeah, they're losing their blue buff already.
So blue buff down, dragon down. Despite having a marginal gold lead for Origen, they're very happy to go even. We see Steve with his first back. He's already picked up those Ninja Tabby and an early Home Guard. So if a teleport play were to start with Onslaught of Shadows, that could be extremely impactful, but he has to deal with Cannon Barrage and a potential follow from Gangplank as well.
I do like the early Home Guards. I think that's something that was lacking overall in Europe this season. Teleport top laners were played, but very often with no Home Guard. So the flanks, they weren't really there, and that seems to be something that Roccat actually values. They win a lot of their games by just sending Steve in a teleport flank position, usually with Maokai, this time with Hecarim, to see if he can pull it off, because obviously he has very little damage. A lot of his gold is spent on defensive stat. You know, Ninja Tabi obviously doesn't help you go all that offensive, and then Home Guards is a bit of a gold sink, so we need to see if he can pay off on that investment.
Find out whether or not he can claim those dividends. Because for the time being, it's been a fairly standard lane swap. Initiated by Roccat, Origen, you can argue, had a tiny window of advantage to at least get in the tower early and some damage in the top outer turret. But as it stands, both teams happy and content to farm their way up. And we need to see where the next point of engage is going to be, because for Origen, the longer this laning phase extends, the happier they are going to be.
Yeah, for me, Origen has already won this lane swap. The fact that they had an initial experience lead on their top laner, their bot lane didn't get challenged, their mid laner has almost no wave clear but didn't get grouped upon. They got the early dragon in addition to that, have good vision control. They got to level 6 comfortably on all their members except Mithi, who will hit it soon. Yeah, Origen, they're definitely happy with this lane swap because they still have to get over the biggest hurdle, which is the mid game. By no means have Roccat fallen behind this game, but this is just a big discrepancy in terms of mid-game power that Origen will need to survive. Now finally we see Roccat moving to the mid lane.
Pekka is in so much trouble. He's knocked up, he's charmed. Sanguine's gonna come out, and Ghost with the barrel sends him for a drink of water at the fountain. Well executed by Roccat.
Big mistake from Expected. You need to see that gang coming. They were in a screen. You could have flashed earlier, pulled earlier, ghosted earlier, anything earlier. That's fine, and then don't waste it at the end. He was dead already. So a bit of an oversight from Origen in their vision control, and Expected could have reacted to that because Vander entered his screen within vision before that combo connected. You could have easily pulled that combo, but props to Roccat for pulling off that gank, and that's what they need to do. Punish the fact that Origen could fall behind in terms of map control, move in. Even if they don't kill Expected there, they chunk him out, and that takes away, chips away tower damage, gives away map control in terms of warding. Now Soas gets his base cancelled. Look where Rallis is, full HP, they're pressuring, so Roccat, they have their foot on the pedal.
And let's see if they can get anything from it. Origen want to reply. They're down a kill. The body slam comes in from Jankos. Exhaust is thrown onto the horse, and Jankos just gets melted by Niels' Vayne. Steve puts the Onslaught of Shadows down to reply. It's been a 1-for-1. Amazing's forced to flash out. The barrels are out, and that's going to burn through.
Good flash.
Defensive flash from Soaz, and the ticking down from the Ignite, or the passive rather, from GP, gets one more kill. Pekka's come in as well. Cocoon connects. There's no flash from Pekka. Amazing's looking for more. He's not going to find it. And they end up trading what was 2 for 2 in the top lane.
I respect it. Amazing, not getting out of there. So a couple nice flashes though from both these teams. Managed to survive on a sliver of health. Obviously, wouldn't mind seeing that again. Obviously, we did not count in Rallis, who was all the way in the bottom lane, because there was a 4v5 on the top lane and the tower. That's why it was so close. But Rallis, he's been chipping away at this tower. He now gets to about 20%, is going to let the wave die, so that will be a gold increase for Roccat, and they end up in the lead overall. Greedy from Roccat, honestly trying to defend this tower. They get lucky that Amazing takes tower aggro. Good read by Jankos for the body slam though, but he drops. but it gets rid of the rappel at least. Now Nukta comes in, gets cancelled a couple of times, but he's keeping a lot of these members low. Look at Steve, dodges the barrels, but then Soas barely dodges that over deception with a flash. Good play. I think Origen right here need to disengage. This cocoon is nice if you land it, but Amazing was expecting a potential flash here from Expeke, but just couldn't quite get it. But overall, solid play from Roccat holding it. They lost 2 members for 2, but they had Wallace pushing in the bot lane.
Oh, they did, and it's going to be another one here. Pekka is in trouble. He's going to sanguine away. I think the charm was held. Not going to matter because Jankos gets another one, and Pekka with no summoners, unable to avoid the second gank.
And Origen need to play with more respect for this Roccat lineup. The lack of wave clear is coming to bite them in the ass because it's just not really working out for them. They just get out-rotated because they don't have the forward pressure. Every time the lanes just get pushed in so easily, Peke tries to push out that wave. He gets surprised all of a sudden. Roccat now sitting on a comfortable 1.6k gold lead here. Overall, good early game.
Yeah, decent turnaround from Roccat. Slow out of the gates, but they've made up for it in the last few minutes. And with Dragon up in 30 seconds, quite a few cooldowns available. We'll see if they're going to risk challenging. We did see the tower go down bottom lane, as you mentioned, Crepo, where that gold lead has come from. And Raz has also reset to defend down the top outer turret as one of the primary wave clear champions for Roccat.
The tower to watch, though, is the one in the mid lane. If that one falls, then Roccat can start playing the map. Because Origen are doing a good job at sneaking into the enemy jungle and taking away a couple of buffs. Really impressive how they've been doing that. The second blue buff denied now from Nuktak, so that way they're trying to keep him down. Peke is still farming. So he's on even CS with Nuktak, so should Roccat fail to really exploit that early game lead they have, then Origen will comfortably scale into the late game. However, we've seen Roccat finally punish some of these early, I wouldn't say mistakes, but opportunities that Origen have left them.
I like that term, opportunities. And we see Origen looking for an opportunity, but there's a pink ward in the river, which nobody's gone to check yet.
Always check your brushes. They should know by now, but there's a ward somewhere.
I can't believe they haven't checked that. That's given Roccat all the time to set up for a fight. Steve's coming in with a teleport. He's got the shadows to onslaught on Origen. Cannon Barrage is coming down. Dragon was secured by Origen. That's 1, that's 2 kills. Niels will be the 3rd. It's just a matter of time. He's tumbling, he's ducking, he's diving, he's charmed. Niels is down. 3 kills for Dragon in favor of Roccat.
Yeah, Roccat, good vision control, you could say, or Origen's sloppy mistake not finding that pink, or they make the right decision with the information, though, and that is key. Vander acts as if he's face-checking scared. Oscar goes to him. And it buys enough time for his team to get in position. Roccat could easily spell out the way that fight was going to go. And okay, Steve, you're teleporting here. We're going to go in. And Nuktak, he was the first one to go in aggressively in that fight. He drew all the attention. Soas had to play defensive. He couldn't stack those barrels. We're going to see that again here. So Vander bought some time. They know where the barrels are. They don't really care about the dragon. They care about the fight. But watch how Nuktak engages immediately on Soas. He has to orange out, but then Steve's there in the flank. He eats Sick and them too. Soas is already too low. Midley is just dying in the AoE. His shield doesn't matter which angle it takes because he's just getting completely wrecked. And then Niels has to kite, but good Charm Flash going to come out here from Nuktak. And overall, Roccat, they take 3 kills for 1. They give up a second dragon. That's fine. They want to snowball their goal advantage. They don't care about stats from the dragon.
I was watching the minimap as well. Peke was still pushing out that mid lane, Crepo. That Oscar that went to Vander, really punishing Origen. They felt they were safe in the vision. It didn't work out. We did see that pink ward actually go down though, as Amazing and Peke reversed out from the fight. And Roccat going to use that wave clear mid lane. That last standing tower, there's nobody here to clear this. It's just going to be a couple of waves. Look at that damage.
Nobody can challenge it. Nobody can walk up and clear that wave. Imagine if this was any champion. Say Ari can come out. Azir obviously is banned. Lulu is banned. So good champion pool pressure from Roccat. They take away the Ari. They're on red side. Traditionally speaking, in a matchup where mid laners is the lane to watch, you see a counter pick come out on the 5th rotation. However, because we had so many bans come out, Nuktak opted for the early Ari, put pressure on Expeke, and this manifests in the way this game is playing out. Obviously, there's more factor than just the mid lane picks, but overall, Origen are just too weak on the wave clear side.
And I think we need to give credit to Roccat. Picks and bans worked out, got them a team comp that could give them a mid-game lead. Roccat then executed a lane swap. They then initiated some pressure, and Roccat have a lead. But this is where things get challenging. Can Roccat play the side lanes well enough to get more objectives? We're approaching 20 minutes. We've got a 4,000 gold lead for Roccat, who are, by a large margin, the underdogs in this match. Very few people expect Roccat to win, considering how well Origen played against Fnatic.
Yeah.
But Roccat have a team comp that can do it in game 1.
And the problem I have with the Origen lineup, it is so good if you could put any of these 3 champions, being Gangplank, Vladimir, and Vayne, in a side lane for a 1-3-1, and you could hold a wave clear in the mid lane. Say Gangplank split pushing top lane, Vladimir split pushing in the bot lane, your AD carry can somewhat hold mid. Fantastic. Any other iteration of that too. Problem is they all want to be in the side lane. Nobody wants to be the guy in the mid lane holding the waves, because nobody can. Vayne can't do it, Vladimir can't do it, GP to an extent can do it with barrels, but it's incredibly hard to time it. So in that sense, Origen kind of overlooked that in their composition. Imagine if Niels just picked a Corki here, something generic, just wave clear duty, utility champion. Just solved a lot of problems, because then he would be in the mid lane right now. Pekka would be split pushing in the bot lane, and Origen would comfortably 1-3-1 into the late game.
Something generic, but it is Niels' most played champion. 9 games this split, so it's not like it would have been an oddball pick. Regardless of that fact, Origen have elected into this late game scaling team composition, and they are getting some key items. Triforce picked up, we've got Lucidity boots for both Soaz, Peke, Blade of the Rune King for Niels, he's working his way towards Phantom Dancer as well.
But in situations like this, what I like seeing from teams that fall behind early but have the better late game is simply pick up 2 Scrying Orbs, because the only way Roccat are really going to close out this game is rotate for tier 2 towers, and you should be able to comfortably hold that and force the fight, or they're going to bait Baron. That's probably going to be Rockat's next step. As a team, they have advanced a lot in terms of shot calling, but they still need to work on closing out the game. Yesterday, we made the remark that Roccat plays the map well, but in slow motion. Things take too much time. If Origen can cancel one of the few upcoming Baron baits, and Dragon is not a win condition, 2 dragons to 0, then Origen can buy themselves some time. That's why I would like to see some more Scrying Orbs come out, or just oddly place deep ports that that Roccat will fail to sweep.
So Origen's vision is what we're going to be looking at. We did see a very quick glimpse of Steve and Soaz. Steve has gone for an early frozen heart, but 60% of that armor is ignored by those barrels. And Soaz easily pushes him out of lane. Steve has to respect that damage.
Steve barely made it out of that one alive. So this is what we're talking about, the 1v1 pressure on the side lanes, even drawing Vander to help. Roccat will need to start grouping up more efficiently. Push out a wave, don't fight. Never stay to fight. Always just push out and rotate. Use your number advantage, the fact that you have poke and wave clear, to siege on towers. That's what they need to do. And then eventually collapse back into the Baron area. But yeah, Amazing doing fantastic job here. Look, Amazing and Mythy, they are identifying what their lose condition is. We always talk about win condition, you know? How do we straight up lose this game if we give away a Baron? Well, just ward it. Get the Scuttle Crab. They can't deny the Scuttle Crab vision. Doesn't matter. If you're standing on it, it's not going to go down any quicker. So in that sense, they're identifying the right part of the map to play on. And then Origen, or Soaz, did a good job chunking out Steve. Roccat just lost a minute.
And Origen are going to get a tower for this as well. Roccat dancing around the map. We saw Nukeduck trying to pressure the top inner turret while Steve was holding Soaz bottom. But that didn't lead to anything. That didn't allow Roccat to gain anything more. And they're losing some of that gold lead. Look, Origen, they're not let up. They've now got some deep vision in Rockat's jungle. These are some of the tools that Origen need to avoid the lose condition.
Roccat are simply leaning too far backwards, and they're buying into this 1-3-1 instead of pushing out the lanes and grouping up together, using that on the hunt. Now Origen are actually doing what Roccat should be doing. They pushed out mid lane somehow. They're rotating to the top lane. They're just taking 2 towers in the top lane. The gold differential from 4,000 gold now went down to 2,000 gold. They can sacrifice this dragon if they want to. They're comfortably getting back into the game, and we'll need to see Roccat group up and get a fight. That's how they've won or gotten a gold advantage so far in this game. Every time, just group and fight.
And with Origen's comp and the lack of vision around Baron, if Roccat commit to somewhere else of the map for too long, Origen can melt that Baron very quickly. See some respect from Roccat. They've not started Dragon. Gonna try figure out where all of Origen are. Now with the ward in the pit, seem to start it. They do have good vision on Origen's red side though.
That is obviously the cost of that play from Origen on the top lane. You always need to look at plays around the map, not in like the 30-second window where the tower falls, but then add a minute on top of that to see what did Roccat gain while Origen was in the top lane. Well, they gained deep vision, perfect triangle wards here in the bottom jungle, and they're going to use that to perhaps make a pick. If he wants vision, look, it's completely dark on the bottom side of the map because Origen were focused on the top side of the map. They know this, but now Roccat have to capitalize and even out that gold advantage that Origen got. They're going to do that by taking a first dragon.
Teleport is available for Steve. If those wards stay alive long enough, he's got an easy entry behind Origen. Dragon secured, uncontested from Origen.
And this gives Mythy information. He hears the dragon's roar, so he says, okay, I can safely assume that there's a maximum of 1 or 2 people in the Baron area, so I can face check on my own. He doesn't need Amazing to hold his hand in the support jungle duo right now. He drops a couple of wards. Look where he's placing them as well. Not in front of the Baron, but ever so slightly out of the pit. So you only need to see them walk into the Baron pit. You don't need to see what they're doing. What will they do in the Baron pit? Well, they'll be doing Baron. And that's a ward in a position that rarely gets swept. They also left one lone pink ward that obviously Steve is not going to check, because who checks brushes in their own jungle?
No, you never check them. That's the rule we've learned. Pink ward cost Origen previous team fights. And you see Amazing and Jankos going to trade toe for toe. I believe those are 2 Cinderhulk junglers as well. Amazing not going to Runeglaive, which we've seen elsewhere. But it's one of the primary tanks for Origen to lead the tanky stats.
So far this game, Roccat not going just quite aggressive enough. And Origen not panicking. We obviously, or very often we see, in situations like this, we see the losing team panic and think that they need to even out the game. Now we see Vander and Jankos move in. Oh, opening from mid-D.
Cocoon connects after the Unbreakable Will. Vander's got damage reduction, but he is caught out. Emo Plague will start ticking, but the burst will not be enough. And the cow makes it out to live another day.
They don't like cows. So many spells and ultimates used on Vander here, but most importantly, they deny much of the deep vision. Roccat want to set a perfect deep vision to punish face checks. Orange says, well, it's not going to happen. We don't want to win a fight. We just want to keep the vision away and keep scaling into the late game. No matter how much armor Steve buys, it's not going to matter, since those barrels penetrate 60% of the armor on enemies from SOAS on that Gangplank pick. So he's obviously comfortably going to that late game.
Slightly different build from SOAS' Gangplank from the last time we've seen it. Heading towards that Ghostblade as his second item. Has already upgraded Cannon Barrage to Death's Daughter, which was the more optimal build. Good pink ward clear, or pink ward put down from Nuke Duck that will deny the vision that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, usually if you have only 1 pink ward to place it outside of the pit and then sweep the pit once. Blue teams are very rarely going to make their way into the Baron pit and place a ward in the back. They're more likely to play a couple cheeky wards over the wall here to just spot you doing it. So obviously, if you have more pinks to place them all. If you have only 1, place it outside of the pit and sweep the pit if you're a purple side team.
I hope everybody's listening. Hashtag get that LP. With Crest.
Doesn't matter in solo queue. They can see you doing Baron, they can see you bot lane. Doesn't matter.
The theory could seep through. I am hopeful. Ever the optimist. But as it stands, 10 minutes has gone by, and Roccat have not touched a tower. Roccat have not pushed deep into Origen territory, and the gold gap is becoming less significant as 2 item spikes are hit from all of Origen.
And look at this. There's one ward right here, and then the one on the right of your screen under that Gragas picture is another one from Origen. You can see it on your minimap. 2 deep wards is all they need to just occasionally spot somebody rotating. Roccat, by process of elimination, they can see whenever they walk somewhere and somebody on Origen twitches on the minimap, then they see, okay, there must be a ward around me, and then you try and find them. It's like sink your battleship kind of type of thing that you want to play, and you want to look at all those wards. Roccat are doing the right thing. They're pushing out Origen all the way because they can't afford to do Baron if Origen is that close to them.
We do see the top laners going head-to-head down bottom, while Vander, Jankos, and Nuke Duck, they're going to set up. Amazing might be in trouble. He's going to rappel up. Peck and Amazing trying to disengage. Barrel will hold Amazing against the wall as the Cocoon catches out the Fat Man. Defensive flash. Mithy does have a Glacial Fissure, and he throws it out.
That was beautiful.
Gragas is stunned in place. Niels is going for a hunt in the night. He tumbles. He's invisible. Looks for Steve. Steve is down. I think SOAS chunked him out before he arrived. There's a tumble forward aggressively. A stun onto Nuke Duck. One more tumble into the Condemn. That means Nuke Duck should go down. It does go down. It's a Silver Bolt proc that takes him out. SOAS was greedy with his teleport, and by him not arriving, gives away a 4-for-3 fight to make it the tower.
Oh, that was an absolutely fantastic fight play by multiple Origen members. Up until the point where Nuke Duck was on 1 hit under the tower and Niels tumbled forward. They completely forgot about Mr. Rawls. He cleaned up that fight, but before that, that was a beautiful sequence of events, the way they play that fight. Fantastic overall, but yeah, Greed is not good, Greed is bad. They lose their tier 2 middle tower and they relinquish the map control back to Roccat. SOAS still has his teleport for an advantage, so Baron should not go to Roccat uncontested. Alright, key things to watch here. Watch how the Repel dodges both Pulverize and Headbutt. Then they turn. Once they connect the Braum passive a little later on Jankos, because Cocoon holds him down. Miffy gonna block some Ahri damage, turns around the direction of his Glacial Fissure. They get Jankos. Now keep watching what happens in this fight. Niels tumbles in aggressively, Expect is there. Steve arrives, but suddenly he's on 25%. They get Nuke Duck here, 1 stack, 2 stack, and now you gotta go back. You don't try to finish him off. Everybody greets here because he's stunned on the tower because of the heal. And everybody walks forward, takes a tower shot, a W from Sivir, then you get HUD by Pulverized. Way too much. Origen could have disengaged, made this a 3-for-1 with Soa split pushing in the bot lane. Instead, they gave up 3 or 4 kills to Mr. Rawless and an extra tower. But before that, such a magnificently played fight by Origen, and this is why they're lauded as the second best team in Europe, because in addition to good shot calling, they have some of these really good team fight synergies.
One more, another engage. Condemn comes out from Niels. The Fisher put down by Miffy. Hemoplague used defensively, but it's a distraction tactic. Soaz has teleports and is pushing up in the top lane. It was Soaz that chunked out Steve before that fight began, but he's going to retreat now.
Yeah, watch Origen right now. If they can drag more members from Roccat to defend against Soaz, they might actually rotate into a potential Baron or go back to the Dragon, who has spawned already right now. So Origen are finally able to start putting some pressures because of their team fight capabilities. Mithy Kato.
Mithy and Pecky got knocked up by that Pulverize. This is the teleport advantage. It's come to pass. Soaz is looking for targets. Cannon Barrage will get chunked down. Mr. Rawls is shut down. The barrels come out and it won't be enough. Double kill for Niels. It was over just as quickly as it started. Origen even out the goal.
Yeah, and this is why Mithy was audaciously posturing around the Dragon area. He knows if I get caught, we have teleport to back ourselves up. Roccat doesn't. We're already stronger in a 4v4. Well, we'll completely Shrek them in a 4v5, and that's what they did. Once one Braum passive applies, that's all you need. You have enough members that can dash, auto tag, tumble forward to get more of those procs. That's why I love Braum. You can just apply the passive and peace out and not die in the middle of the team fight. Unlike Alistar, who has to be in the middle. Yes, he has his ultimate, but if that's out, you're dead cow. So, good team fight overall by Origen and good use of the teleport advantage that they managed to get earlier in the game.
Dragon number 3 as well, 2 away from Aspect. Origen already have all the items they need to be comfortable at the 30-minute mark. They're even on gold, they're even on towers, so as it stands, there's now more pressure on Roccat to bounce back and find more proactive play. Take a look at the gold on your screen. Soaz 2k up.
Yep.
Junglers, small difference, and of course 80 carries even thanks to the excessive kills.
Small lead in the mid lane for Nuketook. Lead in the jungle.
When the gold is 700 different, it's not a massive change.
Yeah, but there's a big swing, however, on the top lane, so Soaz definitely putting his mark down. Steve is itemized for team fights, I guess. Not quite sure if I like the build because the armor doesn't really all do that much against the Gangplank. You're gonna pour it into a team fight, so the Frozen Heart is good against the Vayne, but it leaves you very weak against the Vladimir overall. It leaves Braum also a lot of magic damage, so perhaps he should have just itemized more offensively and tried to dodge the barrels and try and kill Soaz 1v1. Keep that split point pressure down. Because he's getting pressured continuously by Soaz, and once he gets to the fight, he's often already dead or just too late.
Talking about the items, Soaz has had that Ghostblade completed. Very close to getting his Eye Edge. We've got a completed Randion's Omen for Amazing versus 2 cloth armors for Yankos. We'll expand on those items in a minute as Niels is going to 1v1 Steve here with the help of a Cannon Barrage.
So what we were talking about earlier, 1-3-1. Any of these side lane carries, be it Vayne or Gangplank or even Vladimir, can comfortably beat almost anything that Roccat sends their way. Maybe an outplay from Nuketook can match the 1v1, but a Vayne can easily handle a Hecarim. It's almost impossible for tank Hecarim to take down that Vayne, because over time 2 damage will destroy you anyways. What I like is that Miffy is seemingly building towards Zeke's Harbinger. I think it's a must-buy second item for any support on this patch. It is simply too strong that you can give your AD carry 50% crit during a fight, and it will proc, and it lasts 8 seconds. That means you can put a 4-item AD carry if he goes BT 4th after Last Whisper on 105% crit. He's critting every hit at once that procs, and that can be, yeah, so disrupting because a lot of these teams don't really notice when a Zeke's procs.
Yeah, assuming he's got that Eye Edge and Shiv or Phantom Dancer. For Niels at the moment, the only crit item is his PD, but he should be relatively close to that Eye Edge. Well, about 1,000 gold, so it'll take a little longer. But for Origen, it was a risky comp, limited wave clear. It was high scaling, but they took a gamble on Rockat's penchant for playing slow.
Yep.
We're now 32 minutes in, and it's Origen with the lead. Roccat had a great 10 minutes, but...
It was close though, they were behind 4,000 gold. We see an engage here on Nuketook in the top lane, teleport coming in from Steve.
Steve, can he make a difference? Mithy's gonna throw down the Fisher, and we see here's the arrival of Amazing. The barrel, that helped Mithy get out! Mithy manages to survive. Says thank you, Jankos. High five. Amazing's going to flash forward. He's going to try and bait out the charm. Not going to work. Flash from Pekka. Hemoplague's got 3. He's sanguine under Nuktak. I think the Hemo's going to kill Nuktak, and he does. There's Niels looking for more. He's got himself some cow. He's looking for some beef, and Mr. Rolls is nowhere to be seen. We'll find out what they can do. Pekka's going to sanguine again. He goes golden as Mr. Rolls continues to run away.
Where was Mr. Rawls in that fight? How did this all came to be? Roccat, they opted in for that fight. They could have disengaged, but they went for the teleport play. But they didn't look at where their AD carry was on the map. Obviously, you have to watch if some Origen member was delaying him in some sense. But yeah, good play by Origen. It always looks like they're caught so far this game. I can remember at least 3 instances where they seemingly get caught, but they peel and survive long enough for the cavalry to arrive. And then that damage from Expected. This is late game Vladimir. Obviously, if you get 3 members clumped up, you can get Hemoplague and pull underneath them. Yeah, then you're going to win that fight.
And you get enough time to do another Hemoplague to continue the fight. And if you already thought Origen were good in the 1-3-1, now they're 1-3-1 with Baron. It's looking a lot more dire for Roccat. And once again, out the gate, game 1 of the series, Roccat was slow against Giants yesterday. They're going to need to pick up the tempo if they get a similar pick and bans, because it's going to be very difficult to claw this game back now.
Yeah, and complete props to Amazing and Mithy for stalling that Baron threat. A couple of deep ports aptly placed at the right time. Skullcrabs killed at the right moment on the map without getting caught themselves, bought themselves enough time, because if you get a tower lead, say Roccat had a 2-tower lead in the early game, that is a couple thousand gold. If you get a couple extra kills, map pressure, CS, they had a 4,000 gold lead. Early speaking, that is a lot relatively to the time that you're in the game, but if you can prolong that lead to stay the same absolute value as these gold values on both these teams go up, relatively speaking, it falters and it becomes useless. Who cares if you're 4,000 gold difference if you have the superior scaling when you hit this 50k mark? Right now, Origen actually have the lead. They're comfortably scaling to the late game. They have these Baron minions that are nullifying the wave clear from Roccat, and they're looking to take down game 1 in this series.
Well, they've got themselves a mid-tier 1 tower. Glacial Fish has been used, and the Cannon Barrage. Origen gonna not be unable to push deeper. Roccat shoving it backwards. But as it stands, Origen are happy. They've evened out the kills. They've now got a tower lead, and they are accelerating their gold lead. An incredible amount. Dragon number 4 is up, and I do not think Roccat can contest this.
Obviously, don't want to walk into this Origen lineup. Right now, they're strong enough when they're grouped. It doesn't matter whether you have wave clear or not, if it's a full-on jungle fight. And that is something Gangplank as a champion is incredibly good at, so is Vayne, is at punishing people that are walking into you. Because Vayne kites very well on short range, and if the front line is constantly clawing at you and you can just tumble backwards and you walk into these barrels, then obviously Origen can deal a lot of damage. And they have enough peel coming out of Amazing and Mithy on that Braum Elise combination. So right now it's very hard for Roccat to find an opening. It really has to be Charm Flash into one shot. Or Pulverize, Flash Engage, knock back with Head. But that has to be their window, because just in pure standoff fights where everybody's hitting each other, I feel like Roccat are getting at the shorter end of the stick.
So no flash on Jankos, Nuktak or Vanda, so it's going to be a little bit more time before those plays can be up. Luckily for Roccat, fairly squishy Soaz and Niels. Should be a little easier to do that. Pekka does have 3k HP, but not the highest amount of resistances to speak of, so even if he gets caught, he could get melted very quickly.
It's going to be incredibly hard to kill Niels too, because he went for the Bloodthirster. He didn't go for any greedy eye-edge shenanigans. He just wants to keep, double lifesteal to stay in these fights. If you're already ahead, getting more lifesteal will only make it easier for you to survive these fights, unless you get one shot by Nuktak.
Let's see if he does. The Fisher comes out. Mithy and Amazing, they're peeling. That's the front line that Origen wants. Steve gets caught in place. Hemoplague will burn through the pop. Not going to happen, because Neil's going to shoot him down. Nuktak gets crit to death as Soaz finds himself another. That's 3, that's 4. This will be the ace. Silver Bolt, barrel as well. Triple kill for Niels. Origen ace Roccat.
Yeah, and unless Roccat get a flank, one shot, 1 or 2 targets, it's simply not going to happen. When Mithy puts up that Valtor in front of the enemies, nobody's going to get to the carries. Nobody's going to get to expect it, Soaz or Niels, and they completely win that fight. Once one member falls, they just simply aggressively flash in. They're taking home game 1.
Easily closed out once Origen hit the 30-minute mark. Got their items, destroyed Roccat, and Origen come away 1-0. It was a greedy composition.
Yeah, and it was just a greedy early game as well. There was no wave clear in the mid lane at all. Roccat could have easily grouped a little earlier, pushed home their advantage a little more. Origen also got slightly, I wouldn't call it lucky, because they got their advantage in the very early of the stages, say first 5 minutes, due to better strategical play. But that lane swap, that was a little more even. If Origen got a little less momentum, then Roccat could have punished them a lot harder. They were down 4,000 gold. That should be game over when you're playing against a composition like this. But Steve, he never found that flank.
Yeah.
The only time he did, he arrived at 25%.
So it's chunked with barrels.
Yeah, chunked it with barrels, and Origen just turned around and was like, okay, that's a dead horse, we're beating it, and we're turning back to the fight. Analysis, good shot, come on.
That was good. I also want to go back to what Ducky mentioned in the pregame, how Roccat as a team could be a threat, but sometimes, more often than not against their higher tier teams, they just don't show up when they need to. They had a good draft, they had the ability to punish, and after 20 minutes, yes, they got the outer towers effectively between 10 and 20, but then just nothing else happened, whether it was respect, whether it was fear, whether it was trepidation, whatever the cause, they took their foot off the gas, and that was what allowed Origen back in the game. If Roccat had continued to pressure Origen, all of those weaknesses would have been exposed, and that gold graph would not have looked the way it did at the end of the game.
Overall, I did like what Rockat's intentions were, or their perceived intentions in terms of draft. Getting the early pressure on Xpeke. Yes, he did fine with Vladimir in the late game, but he did suffer pressure loss in the mid game, as expected in the Vladimir against Ari matchup. But overall, if Roccat can take the good things from this game, improve the bad things, so you might actually get an exciting series.
Well, we'll find out. They have the potential. That is Roccat, of course. Let's go take a look deeper at Origen's come from behind, game 1 win.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We